Oh, it's game day, guys. USM men's national team faces Mexico in the CONCACAF Nations League final. Our old rivals, the gentlemen who have not beat us since 2019. We're 5 years since the last time Mexico beat the US in a competitive, no, period, even in friendlies. They still have not beat us, and this is their big opportunity to do so. Today in the CONCACAF Nations League final. Yes, they are away from home, but looking into the attendance in the stadium, you wouldn't know it, right? We're going to see a Mexico, probably going to see, 70-30 Mexico dominance in terms of a crowd. So they are going to have, in some ways, home advantage. But the U.S. is the undisputed kings of CONCACAF at the moment. Today will continue to decide is if Mexico wins today, Tac, after winning the last Gold Cup, do they take over as kings of CONCACAF?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that will be two trophies in a row, right? Whether we played our best in the last one or not is irrelevant when you're judging into that. They won two
Mm-hmm.
trophies. Um, I would say they matched us in terms of like those results because we won the two previous ones. I still think on paper it's not on paper, regardless of what happens, it's not really debatable. If you go on a
Right.
player by player basis of how they're performing for their clubs and just the technical quality and quality of both teams. The thing is with the US and Mexico, it's also a rivalry, a derby. And we've
Yeah.
seen this multiple times where even in the club level at the club level and even national team level, when it's a derby, even when one team is far superior, it kind of
Anything
just
can happen.
evens out because there's just so much more at stake, emotions and the game. So I wouldn't take it into that account. But if Mexico wins, props to them. And it's time for us to start catching up again because that means they
Yeah.
defeated us.
Yeah. I
Um,
think personally, if they win the last two regional tournaments, then they are kings for now. Now, you mentioned something interesting on paper, right? On paper, and this is why the standard should be set so high for Gregg Berhalter. Like, this is the bare minimum, right? Winning Nations League and winning Gold Cup, it's the bare minimum. No, like if you lose this with our player pool that we have now, which let's talk about player pool, right? Between the two teams, if we're making a starting lineup between the two teams, how many Mexico players make it into the US men's national team starting 11?
Pete, Pete, I think he's going to ask how many Mexican players make it into the U.S. men's national team starting 11. So I'll take it from here. I'll take it from here since Pete is gone. Why does he always freeze in a weird way?
To our
When
starting
you
lineup. To me, there's only
Pete, he said
yeah,
something. Are you back?
I'm back. Did I freeze
Okay,
again?
so I kind of said it already to them. You were saying how many of the Mexican players make it to the starting 11 of the U.S. men's national team. So now we got to go through the players.
Yeah. So for me, the only one who for sure makes it in is Edson Alvarez as far as the starting lineup. Okay. Then there are a few others that could challenge. I think Guillermo Ochoa versus Matt Turner, especially right now, that's probably a fair shot. Center backs is the question. I mean, look, if you're starting Miles Robinson, I think Cesar Montes is probably a better defender than Miles Robinson and passer of the ball too. But for me, Reem Richards should be our starting lineup. We'll talk about the lineup in just a second. But Reem Richards, would I start Cesar Montes or Johan Vasquez over either of them? No. I mean, these guys are both Premier League players. Sure, you could say, Tim Ream has been benched recently for Fulham, but up until now, for a few years, he's been a mid-table Premier League lockdown defender. So for me, no, actually, no center backs make it in. Um, Edson for sure starts at the six. There's no question about that. The other two potential challengers you could argue would be Chucky with Weah. Does Chucky start over Weah? And does Santi Gimenez start over Folarin Balogun? For me, it's close, but no.
Now, probably for me, the only players that I would start right now from them would be Edson in the midfield. Even though I think Tyler and Johnny are pretty freaking close to that. Tyler mainly because of the injury, and Johnny is getting there
Yeah.
as he plays. And I would probably start Memo Ochoa over Matt Turner. I don't know. Memo Ochoa right now gives me. I'm a bit more confident on him. As weird as that sounds, and he does show up for the national team usually. To be fair, regardless of his club career, when it comes to Mexico, Memo Ochoa has had multiple impressive performances. including the last one against Panama. He was really good against Panama, Memo Ochoa on Thursday. So
Yeah, he was.
those would be so it'd be two players that would start for the United States almost unanimously. I would say most people would agree.
Yeah,
Outside of that, there's like two more that are debatable. You could debate.
right.
So let's say those debates we went towards Mexico. That means 4 Mexicans would start. That's if we go towards a Mexican
Yeah,
bias.
yeah,
4, and then 7 American starters. That is not really debatable at all.
right. And we are at home. The problem with us is, as always, does the talent play to the sum of its parts? And the answer is no. Like, we don't know what we're going to get today with Gregg Berhalter, with Mexico. There's some rumors about who's going to start. I've been given some information I'll talk about. It's not finalized, but it does seem to be leaning in one direction. I'd love to get your thoughts on that too, Tac. But yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot to talk about. But first, let's just talk about this. Well, actually, first, let me play the Underdog sponsorship video, guys. And while it's playing, go smash that like button, guys, because we have at least 260 people in the chat and only 42 likes. So if you haven't gone and smashed that like button yet, if we get 300 likes on this video, the U.S. wins tonight. Less than that, Chucky Lozano scores a screamer. All right. Sports is back with a new and improved pick'em game across all sports that makes it easy to play fantasy sports with just a few clicks. Each sport allows you to build a parlay that includes between 2 and 5 predictions about the outcomes of player projections. As you would expect, the more picks you include, the greater the potential payout. Don't go crazy with it and play responsibly, but adding a few bucks here and there to a game gives it a little more excitement and stakes. Use my promo code 11YANKS or click the link in the description to start playing, and Underdog will match whatever you put in your account up to $100. Enjoy! All right, so let's look at a potential. Now, of course, we don't know exactly what Gregg is going to do, but I've heard some things. I can say that I've heard, and I don't know yet about this source, but I have heard that Tyler Adams will be starting tonight, which is interesting, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Tac. But first, let's just take a look at this potential lineup. Now, this is not the leaked lineup or anything that is for sure going to start, guys. This is what I'm speculating with, okay? And the reason why I'm speculating this, so Turner in goal, Serginho Dest at right back, that's a no-brainer. A-Rob at left back. Now, center backs, I'm not sure, Tac, and you can give me maybe your thoughts on this too. Richards and Robinson did not look like a good pairing yesterday, or not yesterday, on Thursday, number one. Number two, we are going to need to be able to pass the ball because typically Mexico does like to press. They do like to get in your face. We are going to have to be able to pass out of the back. And in a very high intensity emotional game, a cool head like Tim Ream. For me, Tim Ream should start regardless. It should actually be Ream and Richards. But we know that Gregg Berhalter loves Miles Robinson. So I can totally see him benching a Premier League starter for his favorite Cincinnati boy. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, the center backs, it's probably going to be between Ream, Miles, and Richards. I think he's going to go with Ream and Robinson as well. Last game, Richards plays a left center back, which would technically mean that's where Ream would be sliding into. Of course, that doesn't mean anything. You can still move Richards to the right center back position. But I do think Ream will start. As weird as that sounds, Ream, the one that didn't start on Thursday, I think that's the one locked to start. I think Gregg will start Tim Ream. The question is, will he be paired with Miles or Richards? I'm not sure. My bet would be Miles because of Gregg. I would go with Richards, but what I would do doesn't really matter at all when it comes to that. So I think that'll be the back line. A-Rob is a lock. Des will be back. That should be a lock, especially because Scally didn't play well, and I don't want to see McKennie playing the right back. I think that is a bit of a waste of McKennie's talent. Turner to start. And do you want me to talk about the midfield, or you're still going to go talk to it?
No, yeah, one sec. I'll just read these two super chats here. Miguel says Lozano is telegraphing. Yeah, this is actually, we were going to talk about this. Using the low block to mid block, and he figures Triple G can't manage his way out of a bag. So this is going to be very interesting because their coach Lozano, is it Jaime Lozano or Jimmy Lozano? I've
I think
heard
it's
both.
Jamie Lozano. Jamie Lozano.
Jamie, yeah. So Jamie Lozano says that they would consider playing a little differently than they have against the U.S. Now, this is unprecedented for Mexico. If they really go more defensive and try to sit deep and try to stifle us, this is unprecedented for Mexico. Tac, you've even pointed out that against Brazil, Mexico still tries to come out and play. And it's probably hurt them, to be honest, right? It's not really in Mexico's DNA as a footballing nation to sit back, right? So this would be a huge departure for Mexico, and also kind of an admission that the U.S. is the better team. And if they want to survive this, they kind of have to sit back, or they just look at Berhalter's, weaknesses and say he can't, like Miguel is saying here, he can't coach his way through a low block. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Mexico's an interesting one, right? We'll see Mexico bunker sometimes in situational moments, and during the game they have a lead and they'll try to sit back and all that. We've seen that, but it's very rare to see Mexico start off the game just like with that strategy of we're gonna sit back and try to hit you in transition, a defensive approach, especially when it comes to facing any CONCACAF nation, including the United States.
Right.
I don't think we've actually ever seen Mexico try to play us playing defensively. Even the past few years, when they would lose to us, they would still not do it.
Yes.
And what I said in the preview was, I think if Mexico decided to play a low block, make things difficult for the United States to create, Berhalter's teams tend to struggle against low block, and they played in transition because I think they have better players to punish us when compared to like Jamaica had last game.
Yeah.
I think they would actually be the favorites if that was the case.
So here, let me say this. It's one thing to want to play a low block, and it's another thing to be good at playing a low block. If you've never really done it before, it can be hard to switch into that mode completely. Most of this Mexico team is used to having the ball. I don't think a lot of these guys play a low block. I mean, sure, Cesar Montes and Johan Vasquez have some experience with that, playing for relegation-threatened teams. But it's one thing to try to play a low block. It's another thing to do it well, to do it successfully. It requires a certain amount of physicality too, because it's not just sitting deep and denying space. It's about getting the little physical challenges in, those little niggling fouls, making life difficult, tugging the shirt, CONCACAFing essentially, right? Which they do already, but you have to do that on top of being very defensively solid. So that's going to be interesting to see how it works. If A, do they play that way? B, how does it work? And C, what if we then score? All of a sudden, if we score, you have to check out of that mentality real quick and get back to playing. I don't know. Look, the fact that he's being flexible with Tata, which Tata Martino never really was with this Mexico team, is interesting because, he's saying, well, we could try to play them. Are we going to absolutely, kill ourselves doing that? But let's look at our midfield. I'm hearing Tyler Adams is going to start today. I'm hearing Adams is going to start. Berhalter mentioned that they were going to increase his minutes restriction after, Tyler kind of threw a bit of a fit coming off the field. I'm not so sure you should be starting a guy who just came back from an injury and is still on the minutes restriction. You have to pull him off at some point, regardless of the game state. Should we really be starting when we have a guy who's like starting every week for Real Betis, who can also play that position? Like, I understand bringing Tyler Adams on if you're leading. I don't know, man. I mean, I know Johnny. Have you heard anything, or it's just...
No, usually don't talk to him during camps. My concern with Tyler starting is one, a re-aggravation of the injury. We don't know, right, to what extent he's fully healed. He came back for Bournemouth earlier in the season and got injured again. And once Tyler starts, we know for a fact he's in the minutes restriction. So he's not finishing the full 90 minutes. We know that. Right. So you're starting with a player that is not Messi or Neymar, that you're like, oh, we need to put him in. We need to start off well. It's like, you have players that can play at his level or similar, or offer different things, like Musa or Johnny. It would have been fine, either one. I know Musa was fasting and didn't play well, but would have been fine with Musa, would have been fine with Johnny. Now you put in Tyler, and you're going to have to sub him out at minute 60 or 70 or a halftime. I don't know what the minute restriction will be. I'm not
Yeah.
overly for it. I don't have an issue with Tyler playing. It's just that because of his minute restriction, I would probably have him as my sub later in the game, hopefully with the lead. That way
Yeah.
you can hold on to lead. 30 minutes left in the game. Tyler, we got a 1-0 lead. You're going in because he can protect the back line. No, we'll do it. It's more the decision. If Tyler, let's say, was healthy for a full month, playing for Bournemouth for a full month, and we're like, okay, it seems like the injury is behind him now. So then sure, start him. But at this point, it's like he's played what 40 minutes in the past 12 months for his club, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I want to make one thing clear before someone brings up Gio Reyna. There's a difference between, in terms of health, that you're not playing for your club because it's a coach's decision, like Gio Reyna. He's not playing
Yeah.
because the coach is not choosing him, which is not good. But I'm just saying there's not a health issue there. And then there's Tyler that didn't play for like 12 months because of 2 severe injuries. One of them re-aggravation of the previous one.
Right.
There's a difference there. For
Well,
example,
also Gio's played way more than 40 minutes over the last year. Like it's not like he's played no minutes.
oh, there's that too. Well, Gio also played 75 minutes against Mexico and didn't look gassed towards the end. He looked fine. So there's a difference there between those two, and that's my concern. Now, sure, here's the thing. You can put Tyler, and he's a good player, so he's probably going to – I'm assuming he's going to play well. But let's say we put Tyler, and he's a little rusty because he hasn't played in a long time. Or, hope, knock on wood, gets an injury because of the intensity of the game, and he's coming back. How much of that is on Berhalter? I would say all of it. Because Tyler, as a competitive player, he's going to want to play. If you ask Tyler, he's going to say, dude, I'll play 90 minutes. That's what he's going to say probably. I'll play 120. He'll go the whole thing, isn't he? So it's the coach's job to like, look, Tyler, medical staff said this. Bournemouth said this. We're going to respect it, especially because we have the Copa America coming up. If Tyler gets injured now, he's probably not going to play in the Copa America. So I don't know, man. I would probably have Tyler as a sub in this game. But if you're hearing that Tyler's going to start and he's going to start, well, let's hope it just goes well, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So then the other one is Gio. I agree with you, by the way. I would start Johnny, McKennie, and Reyna. Musa's fasting. Why didn't Gio start the last game? Probably because he wasn't really playing for Nottingham Forest, right? Like I still say, I remember, when the lineup came out, I said, look, Gio should. So I would start Gio, but I understand the arguments against starting him today. Okay. Malik had his chance. He did not take it. Gio came on and absolutely was the man of the match, destroyed the opponent, changed the game completely. We won that game because of Gio and Haji, but without those passes from Gio, Haji ain't scoring any goals. He absolutely starts for me. Played 75 minutes, especially if Mexico is going to now play more defensively or bunker, then Gio should start. And I have heard that he will be starting. I think Berhalter, it would be impossible to justify benching Gio. But for the sake of argument, why would you bench Gio? If you're Gregg Berhalter and you're trying to justify benching Gio, what would your rationale be?
Berhalter benching Gio?
Yeah.
You want my honest take on it?
Yeah.
I think it's just to show who's in charge. That's my opinion. I think he just
wanted Gio can't protest now.
Yeah, because if you go back to the 2022 World Cup against the Dutch, he went with Jesus Ferreira, for example, and then Jesus was dropping a stinker, and then he threw Gio in at halftime. So it almost felt like I probably should have started Gio, but again, because he had that bad attitude, I have to show him he's not in charge, I'm in charge, and then he put Gio. And it just kind of seems that way. I don't think he has any issues with Gio anymore. I don't think they have like actual issues with each other, but it's just more or less to show, look, you're not playing for your club, and I'll bench you. I can start you, I can bench you. I'm still in charge, because as soon as the shit hit the fan, he just didn't sub Gio earlier, because you're not going to do that, right? Just during the first half, you're going to let them finish it. But he put him on right at halftime. At halftime. That was a bit like, why didn't you?
A halftime sub means we need to change something, and not only was he the halftime sub, he was the game changer.
The funniest thing of them all is that Berhalter had the audacity. Like, I don't care about him. Like, I didn't like Jesse Marsh's comments on implying that Gio shouldn't be in the roster and he was only there because of the Berhalter drama. But it's funny how both of these guys have the audacity to do things like that and say things like that. Berhalter bench Gio for no reason. Because look, if Gio is on a minutes restriction and it didn't start, then Tyler shouldn't start this game.
Yeah, but
Right?
Gio's not on minutes restriction. At this point,
No,
I don't
I
think
know. I'm just saying, if he is,
right.
then Tyler shouldn't start either. But
Because
it
you
looks
can't have
like,
two midfielders on minutes restriction starting.
yeah, and then Gio comes off the bench, was a game changer, blah blah blah, and then Berhalter has the audacity to like brag about bringing Gio.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird. Well, two things. I mean, I agree with Tony Meola, who said this was Berhalter trying to obfuscate from the quality of the game and throw shade at Jesse Marsch. But also, dude, you didn't start him. Like, imagine if you had, maybe we would have been just fine, and we wouldn't need to do 120 minutes. I mean, we could lose today because we had to go 120 minutes and Mexico didn't. Right, that could be a factor. An extra 30 minutes in everyone's legs does take its toll, especially on a 3-day turnaround. Right. Let's not forget, we're on a 3-day turnaround. 120 minutes versus 90 minutes on a 3-day turnaround is definitely something to consider. So, especially Pulisic. Now, Pulisic is one of the few guys who played 120 minutes, right? Along with A-Rob and the defenders. Dest is fresh, right? Turner, it doesn't matter. You're a goalkeeper. Reyna didn't play that long, and Adams obviously didn't. Weah didn't. Balogun didn't. But Pulisic did. McKennie did too. So it'll be interesting to see how Pulisic and McKennie hold up after 120 minutes on Thursday. So we'll see what happens. I guess the only other real question mark is, does Haji feature anywhere? I don't think so. Maybe. I mean, I would be surprised. I think Gregg is pretty firm on his favorites with Weah and Pulisic on the wing. You know, if Pepe had played better against Jamaica, I would maybe think, is Berhalter going to play him against Balogun, who was, I'd say, poor. But Pepe didn't really play better. So it's kind of between Balogun and potentially Haji, right? What do you think?
I think he's going to start the front three you have up top. And that's one thing I do agree with Berhalter in. I think he should persist a little bit more in Balogun. Of course, it could reach a point where he's just like, okay, guys, not playing for his club well and not playing well for us. And then he could. I just don't think we've gotten to that point yet. And I appreciate the fact that he's actually persisting on Balogun. And then he tried Pepe last game, which even when he sent in Pepe, it made sense, right? Because Balogun wasn't playing well. He tried to get him on. And as for Weah, I know people got hyped with Haji because Haji scored a brace, obviously. But first and foremost, I don't think Weah was horrible. That's the first thing. I didn't think he was horrible last game. I didn't think it was great, but not horrible. And it's just a matter of like, do we already bench Weah for that? Is Haji Wright the guy that's going to give you a brace every game? Probably not, right? I would let Weah, Pulisic, and Balogun start with Gio there in the midfield from the get-go to feed them. And you might see a little bit of a different Weah, a different Balogun with that.
Well, also, we have to remember Gio and Balogun do combine very well together. Not only do we have that Nations League final against Canada, we have that really nice goal against Trinidad and Tobago that at home that they combined for. And Balogun has mentioned it, that he really enjoys playing with Gio. And I think, you know, Gio on the field is kind of the key to unlocking Balogun. Like, you put Gio there, he can really combine with him. So I would 100% start Balogun. I will say, at this point, because of recent performances, both for club and country, Balogun is probably on thin ice. And if he has another stinker today against Mexico, then I do think the conversation about who starts in Copa America should be brought up, right? And we can debate. Does Sargent get a look? It's going to be tough to start Sargent in Copa America anyways because he wasn't in this camp, and this was his big comeback after a long injury. So it's just hard to say, but I do think that Balogun has a lot to prove today. Pulisic typically shows up for the big games, and he particularly loves playing against Mexico, right? He got a goal and assist against Mexico in the 2021 Nations League final. He got a goal against Mexico in World Cup qualifying at home. And he got 2 goals against Mexico in the last Nations League semifinal where we beat them 3-0. So Pulisic loves scoring and assisting versus Mexico.
He should have had a hat trick that game, actually.
He should have.
Yeah.
He didn't play well against Jamaica. He was quiet. He was anonymous. He wasn't combining with people. He was trying to go it alone a lot, losing the ball, clearly getting frustrated. You forgive games like that with Christian Pulisic because he does show up when it matters most of the time. But I do think he can't have another stinker in a row, right? You can have one, but when you're the face of the team, the captain, whether it's him or Adams, the two captains, you're the most experienced player on the team. You're the most marketable face. You're the natural leader of this group. You can't have two stinkers in a row in two big games. So he needs to show up and have a big game today against Mexico as well. I'm betting on him to do it. It's Pulisic. I think he's not going to be happy with how he performed against Jamaica, and I think he is going to show up today. And briefly talk, before we get into Mexico's lineup, can we briefly talk about set pieces?
One thing just to tell you, I sent you on Twitter, you can check it out soon. I sent you the projected starting 11 for Mexico that apparently a journalist from Mexico has put out, that it looks like it's what it's going to be. So you might want to put that one.
Okay, we'll show that one in just a sec. But let's talk about set pieces. Pulisic's set pieces were not good. They generally aren't very good for the U.S. Milan, I actually think he's been okay this season on set pieces. But not just that, then we had Malik Tillman taking free kicks. Like, what? I don't understand. Gio should be on all corners. At least from the left-hand side of the field, Gio should be on the corners because he can whip them in. Right? On the right-hand side, if you want to do Pulisic, fine. But at least on the left-hand side, Gio should be on corners. And honestly, any kind of free kick or set piece, Gio's our best set piece taker. It should always be Gio. When he was on the field and Malik was taking them, like, I was like, what is Gregg doing? Does he have no control over like this team? Does he not understand roles? I don't know. But Gio should absolutely be on set pieces. And like, it still feels like we're not really letting Gio have the team. And I understand, okay, he's not playing for Forest, but when he keeps performing like this, 7 goal contributions now in his last, 5 games? Like, at what point do we go, yeah, like, give him a more prominent role? Not only start him, but let him do what he's good at.
It was a bit weird also to see when we needed a goal. It was also a like right at the center and from decent range, the free kick, to have Malik Tillman take the free kick over Reyna, even over Pulisic, to be honest, even though Pulisic hasn't been great at that. It was a bit weird. I don't know why. Maybe he's been hitting those in practice. I don't know. Clearly it was terrible. Never seen Tillman score off a free kick for PSV. Never seen him actually take a free kick
for Rangers.
Yeah, he never took a free kick for them either that I can remember.
In the box anyways, getting his head on stuff because he's actually pretty good in the air.
Yeah, so I don't know what was happening there. And we haven't really scored on set pieces in quite some time, actually, direct or off crosses. Sure, you could argue that the goal against Jamaica was scoring off set pieces, but again, it was an own goal. Corey Burke headed against his own goal. So it's not like no one can convince me that it was by design, that we had this plan to have the Jamaican player hit it. I don't know, man.
So the last 2 set pieces we scored were against Ghana. Gio's goal was technically a indirect free kick. That's
inside the box.
Inside the box, Pulisic tapped it to him. He curls it in. The one before that was Brendan Aronson's deflected free kick against Uzbekistan, remember? Or was it Oman?
Oh, it was Grenada, I think.
No, was it? I thought it was Uzbekistan. Maybe
one of those teams that is not very good, and that doesn't count. That was like it hit the wall and when
it hit the wall. Yeah, it just deflected in, and
then, it was a terrible free kick. That's the truth. It was terrible.
The last time we scored directly from a set piece was Gio Reyna to Chris Richards in the Nations League final against Canada. So once again, Gio involved in 2 out of the last 3 successful set pieces. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more that needs to be said. He should at least take corners from the right and all free kicks, So trying to think here. Julian Vivas, hey, Pete, how do you know Adams will start? I think Johnny should start since Adams is on minutes restriction. So I agree with you, Julian. What I don't know, I can't tell you how I know. I mean, obviously I have a source telling me this. I can't out my source. So we'll see if they're right or wrong. It's a relatively new source. I don't, things also can change last minute. But that's just what I'm hearing. Like, don't be surprised if Adams start is what I'm saying. Seth, how you doing? Hey, fellas, hope everything is going good with y'all. The only way Mexico wins is if the players drop a stinker or Triple G messes up on a higher scale. Yeah, from a player pool perspective, we're at home. We should absolutely win this game. This is the bare look. Being successful in CONCACAF is no longer worthy of applause in for us in terms of our player pool, in terms of the expectations around this team. Being successful in CONCACAF is the bare minimum. And on top of that, we need to see the team start being successful on the global stage at Copa America, taking down big teams, not just being content with this level of mediocrity. But before we get to do that, we need to remind everybody why we're the kings of CONCACAF. Yes, we sent our third, our C or probably D team to Gold Cup, but the last trophy was won by Mexico. So it's very important now to remind them that this is not, that the only reason they won that is because we had we had Jesus Ferreira and Georgi Mihailovic starting, for crying out loud. So we'll see what happens today. I'd bench Turner and bring in Horvath for tonight. Okay. I'd probably still start Turner. He did look a little shaky in moments against Jamaica. Let's hope he doesn't have a big mess up because, his confidence is not very high at the moment. Tom Bauer says, if L3 win, Pete and Tac must do their best gritto. What is a gritto?
Grito is like a scream. I guess it's a chant
Oh, okay.
But no, I'm not. Why are we thinking about them winning right now?
Yeah.
Can they win? Sure, they can win. I think this game is more or less 50-50, but why would I go? Not going to think about L3 winning.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. Let's talk about Mexico's starting lineup potentially. And this has been leaked by a journalist, apparently.
It says on the tweet that I sent you.
Yeah. So I'm pulling it up here. Y'all get to see my Twitter. This is potentially Mexico's starting lineup. Of course, we don't know for sure. We're using Translate here with information from Gibran Araiji. I don't know how to pronounce that. This is the possible starting 11 against the United States. Santi Gimenez bench. So let's look at this. Guillermo Ochoa in goal, obviously.
Click on the picture there, just so I can't read it, at least me.
Okay, is that better?
Okay, it's whatever. Just keep it like that. Yeah, keep it like that.
I can try to zoom in a little.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You can read it. I can kind of read it.
The problem with the picture is that when it takes the picture.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Leave it like that.
Okay, so this is it. So back four of Jesus Gallardo, Johan Vasquez, Cesar Montes, and Jorge Sanchez. Araujo is injured, so that's going to be Jorge Sanchez. That's probably a no-brainer right there, that back four. Midfield trio of Luis Chavez, Edson Alvarez, and Eric Sanchez. Did Eric Sanchez start? He did, right?
Eric Sanchez, yes. Last game, yes. It's
pretty. So it's the same midfield, except
it's the same
Lozano instead of Quinones.
It's the same team. It's just Jorge Sanchez replaces an injured Julian Araujo, and Sanchez was apparently suspended in the last game. Yeah. And then Lozano's replacing Quinones that scored his first goal for L3, but it's the same lineup.
Interesting. So if this is true, Quinones gets benched. Henry Martin starts over Santi Gimenez. That's probably the biggest head scratcher. And then Uriel Antuna. No matter what this guy does, he really seems to be loved by Mexico coaches.
He runs a lot.
He does a lot of running. I don't know. I don't understand the love for Uriel Antuna. But also they don't have that many options. I would probably start Quinones and Chucky. Now the big question is Santi Gimenez. Why doesn't Santi start for Mexico when he's balling out in the Eredivisie? Is it the same sort of Malik Tillman situation where okay, but you don't play well for country?
I don't think he's as good as many people think. I think he's a good player, probably better than Henry Martin, just not as good as many people think. You got to remember, the Eredivisie, the best center forward there right now in terms of performance is Luc de Jong.
Right.
That's the best one. This guy flopped in every single top 5 league he's been to. Flopped in the Bundesliga once or twice in also La Liga, one for Barcelona. The other, I think, was Sevilla that he was there. So again, that's the level of the Eredivisie. Once the player leaves, it's hard to know what his level actually is. It's a good enough league, better than Major League Soccer, better than Liga MX. So I think it's better than Liga MX at least. But it doesn't mean much, the fact that he's that. Maybe Santi isn't as good as many people think.
Okay, but the question is not, is he as good as many people think? It's, is he better than Henry Martin?
Well, maybe, maybe not. I think he is, but maybe
I
he's
think he
not.
is too. Like, I don't understand, but some people are pointing out in the chat, and this is true. Santi hasn't always looked very good for Mexico when he has played. So I
Where
guess the difference for me is like you could compare Malik Tillman and Gio Reyna, but Gio Reyna's still an amazing player, right? So it's not like the same thing as like, Santi versus Martin.
I don't know, man. I think that Santi Gimenez is better than Henry Martin, as I said, but at the same time, I think he's been extremely overhyped in the CONCACAF universe. And again, let's just try to put it this way. Sure, coaches make moronic decisions, or sometimes decisions that involve politics and other elements to it. But if he's that good, as good as people say, why is it that like doesn't go to the World Cup, and then after that can't start for Mexico? He's dropped multiple stinkers for Mexico. Let's make that clear. I know
Yeah.
he had that goal in the Gold Cup final that was clutch, but he's had multiple opportunities with Mexico, and Santi has almost never, if not rarely, performed well for them. That
Also,
has
he
to be
misses
said.
a lot of penalties. Like
Like
nobody
Balogun,
misses
yeah,
more
like
penalties
Balogun.
than this guy.
Just Balogun misses more.
Balogun and him together are in a competition for what CONCACAF striker can miss the most penalties.
Yeah, so again, like he hasn't performed well for Mexico. He has been given opportunities. So sure, Mexican fans can complain about it all they want, and the guy has been scoring goals in the Dutch league. When you play for a top 3 team in the Dutch league, you're usually playing on easy mode up top. That's why a lot of the guys are getting a lot of Malik Tillman too, getting a lot of stats there. What is it, like double digit? I
I
think
think
goal
he's at
contribution.
15 now, 15 or
Yeah,
16 goal
getting a
contributions.
lot. And then when it comes to the national team, you guys saw it. Not a horrible player by any means, but
But the
that's
gap
not.
between him and Gio is still huge, despite Gio, quote, not
Yeah.
playing.
So the question is more like, is Santi better than Harry Martin? Maybe, but it might be actually a much smaller gap than we think, and it
Yeah.
might not matter that much. That's my overall point. Um, but
Well,
again,
also, Henry Martin is getting older, right? I mean, the guy is going to be 32 this year, which is not super old, but I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. So that is the potential Mexico starting lineup. It's probably true. Big drop off for Chucky, who was a locked in starter not too long ago, right? And somehow he's not even a locked in starter for Mexico anymore. I want to talk to you real quick about just some things to look forward to and be concerned about the game. But first, let me read a couple super chats. Why does Triple G insist on being the underdog? Wrong mentality. I don't know if he's insisting on being the underdog. Is he? Is that what he said in the
no,
press
I don't
conference?
think. No, I don't think he's. Did he say that? Because I don't think he's.
Not to my knowledge, he didn't. But I don't think he does insist on that right now. Antuna is the Mexican Areola. It's true. He
You
looks like
misspelled Ariola, but okay.
Yeah, I think he spelt it the other way. Frank Gassler, sorry, Pete and Tac, but we are only here for Derek. Yes, the stepsister advice ain't gonna give itself, is it? Yeah. Hey, Derek, how you doing?
Where's Derek?
I think he's in the chat.
Oh,
Yeah, he's in the chat there. Derek Ritchie. Yeah. So, one thing you're concerned about tonight. Oh, he's wearing a straight red card shirt.
I have it here. I'm at home. I have it here.
There you go. That's why they're here for Derek. That's what they're staring at. One thing you're concerned about with this game, and one thing you're really looking forward to, and then I'll do the same, and then we'll end the
Well,
stream.
I mean, looking forward to just beating Mexico again. I always look forward.
Specifically. Obviously, we're all looking forward to beating Mexico, but is there anything specific you're looking forward to seeing in this game?
I think I'm looking forward to seeing how Gio and Balogun will combine. I want to see if that will unlock Balogun. We've seen already Gio perform well for the national team multiple times, but Balogun, it's always like, oh, what's going on with him? Is it going to work? Well, if Gio does start, which it looks like he might, there'll be someone to feed Gio when he's making those runs. And on top of that, we're going to be playing a team that very likely won't play a low block. We know Mexico. They leave a lot of space in behind, which is where Balogun thrives. So I'm looking forward to that. Will that duo work? Are we going to be less reliant on Christian Pulisic to get the job done? Because I want Pulisic to ball out too. Because if Balogun, Gio, and Pulisic ball out, I don't see us losing this game. If these three are at their best. So I want to see how Balogun and Gio are going to combine. I think that's what I'm probably looking forward to the most.
Yeah. You took mine. I was really looking forward to seeing Gio and Balogun cook. But I will bring up Dest. I am really looking forward. This is the first time Dest has played since that red card. He was very good at last time we played Mexico, got that assist to Pepe on the third goal, and has been cooking in the Eredivisie. So let's hope he brings that intensity and also that focus. We don't need Serge pulling another stupid moment here. We need a focused Serge, which I think he will be. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll start with my concern. My big concern, obviously, is if Mexico bunkers, can we break them down? Is it going to be horseshoe ball? Is it going to be spamming crosses and inshallah ball? Is it going to be all? And can Gregg manage if things aren't going well? That's my other big concern. What's yours?
I do think I'm a little concerned about Tyler Adams starting. I think I'm not questioning Tyler, the player himself. It's more of a couple things when it comes. One is I'm not a doctor, so and I don't know his actual situation. It's the re-aggravation of the injury.
Yeah,
We need him healthy for the Copa America, and he's on a minute restriction. You're going to start him. It's going to be a high intensity game, lots at stake. Mexico's going to try to be physical. Is Tyler fully fit for that, actually? Because if he's not fit to play the full 90, I don't know, man. It was also a muscle and tendon injury. So that's one concern about Tyler. The second one is if Tyler looks rusty after barely playing for a year, is that even his fault? Is that's a
no,
coach's
it's
decision? That's my
expected. You
point.
would expect that. Yeah,
He can come in and look like shit, and then you're like, oh, Tyler. It's like, yeah, but the guy's in playing 12. Why is the coach starting him in a high intensity game against Jamaica? He wasn't really under pressure. They were giving him time and space. We don't
yeah,
know what form Tyler Adams is after not playing for 12 months. We haven't really seen that yet. That's another concern. And then last but not least, my question here is this. Um, I like to believe that Johnny and Tyler, in terms of their level, is like this. It's very close. They're challenging that, especially with Johnny rising and playing in La Liga. If Johnny doesn't get a chance now, when would he get a chance? Because in the Copa America, Tyler, bearing any injury, he'll probably be getting a few minutes here and there for Bournemouth, maybe starting. So he'll be
yeah,
fine for the Copa America. With that said, if he's the starter when he's not playing at all because of injury, there's a difference between Gio not playing, coach's
sure,
decision, and the guy
sure.
injured. Is Johnny ever going to get an opportunity to the national team, a legitimate one? Like, hey, Johnny, against Mexico, you're in form. Start. Let's see how you do. If you
Yeah,
start, maybe you can challenge Tyler. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And we don't even know. Maybe that midfield of like West and Johnny and Gio just gels better together. We will. It seems like we'll never know that unless Tyler's suspended or injured, which we don't want either one. So that's my concern about that. We don't like. It seems like he's going to start. I'm still hopeful that Tyler will come off the bench today. I think that's what it should be. But there's a lot of concerns about Tyler Adams starting today, and people are going to go, "That's on the play." It's like it's not on the player. If you ask Tyler, he's going to say he'll play 120 minutes right there. It's the coach that has to understand what's the situation of the player. And it seemed like Berhalter did against Jamaica, sorta, right?
yeah,
Subbing him out after he had subbed him in because of the minute restriction agreement, probably with Bournemouth. But again, it's like if he was on a 45-minute restriction, Pete, on Thursday, 2 days later, it just went up. He just got healthier in 2 days.
yeah.
It
It's
just
it's
went up.
interesting. We'll see how that changes all of a sudden, and
No,
how
but
much of
does that
that
make
had to
sense?
do, well, and how much of that had to do with Tyler Adams throwing a little fit and Gregg being like, "Oh, am I losing one of the, what's it called? That little council they have, the leadership
The
council,
leadership council. Yeah, he's
the
the leader
leadership
of that
council."
council.
It's like Pulisic, Weston, Tyler. Yeah, you have to do what's best for the team, not for your boys. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's give Gregg the benefit of the doubt. This is just what I'm hearing. My source could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong. I personally would put Johnny McKennie Reyna in this game. That's what I would start with, but we'll see what Gregg does. Chris Johnson with some grade A trolling here. Hey, Pete, with Scally struggling, what about Dorsey as a backup right back? He shut down USMNT players with Colorado last night. Fantastic trolling, Chris. When he says USMNT players, he means Cole Bassett and Georgi Mihailovic. And Sam Vines. We're talking about D, at best, D level players. Probably, honestly, E for a guy like Cole Bassett. Georgi Mihailovic, let's remember, guys, was not only completely flopped in the Netherlands, but also was awful in the Gold Cup last year. Awful. So Yeah. Griffin Dorson is, the Houston fans were calling for him last year, and I was mocking that a little bit, and they got very, very angry. So I love to toy with them. Griffin Dorsey, the greatest right back since Dani Alves, is not getting called up, and it is an absolute travesty to hear Houston fans. Not all of you. I know some of you are fine. I just like to, troll the ones who are hilarious. Guys, thank you for hanging. Score predictions, and then we're done. Guys, put your score predictions for tonight in the chat. I'm going to go 2-0. I think goals by Balogun and Reyna will make it 2-0, and we win our third Nations League. The only team, we have to three-peat, the only team to win the Nations League so far has been the U.S. Let's not give Mexico that opportunity. What do you say?
I think 2-1 for the U.S. I think it'll be a tight game. I'll say this, out of the past few games that we played Mexico, I think this is the one that I'm a bit more concerned than before. I'm not sure why.
Well, last time you didn't have Berhalter in charge and we looked fluid. 3-0. And it wasn't just 3-0. It was also a very fluid 3-0.
Yeah, that's true. It's 3-0, like literally kicking Mexico out of the field. They never stood a chance. They lost their temper, everything.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 2-1 because I always think we have too much. We have more quality. We have better players. We're technically playing at home, but we're not at the same time. Mexico's gonna pack that stadium. I have us winning 2-1, but this game is a 50-50 to me. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be easy because if there's one thing Berhalter has shown us, it's never easy with Berhalter.
No, he talks about how it's not easy, as if it's like CONCACAF's fault. He said that against Jamaica. He kind of blamed the players, didn't he? He said, you say it before the game and it goes in one ear and out the other, but I told them this was going to be a tough game.
Yeah, the thing with Berhalter is when I call him the bare minimum manager, I really mean it. Like if he almost seems like if you went to Berhalter right now and you said, Greg, I can guarantee you a win. Do you want to win 4-0 or 1-0 with a go at the 95th minute? He's going to pick the 1-0 with the go at the 95th minute. The bare minimum is like, can we do the bare minimum to go through here? That's what he'll pick. So
also, he's completely ignoring that player mentality is part of his job as a coach. If your team doesn't go out sharp and switched on and they concede a sloppy goal like that, that means that's on you too. You're the coach. It's your job to get them in the right mindset for the game. Coaches everywhere do that. So you can't distance yourself from your players and try to, and also throwing your players under the bus is never a good idea. But let's see what happens tonight, guys. Smash that like button if you haven't already. It's going to be good. I think we get the win, but I don't think it's going to be easy. It might even go to extra time. What if it goes to penalties like we did in 2021? That would be very interesting.
No, we didn't go to penalties tonight. We didn't go to penalties.
What time are you starting? Sorry, go ahead.
No, we didn't go to penalties in 2021. Extra time.
In 2021?
Yeah, it was.
What am I? You know why? I
Pulisic
remember
converted
penalty and Pulisic.
Yeah, and then Mexico missed. Yeah,
that's right. It wasn't penalties. It felt like penalties when Horvath made that save. That's like an epic moment in American soccer history. But yeah, we haven't gone to penalties with Mexico in forever. Have we in a competitive game? I don't think we've ever gone.
2019 Gold Cup, they won at regular time.
They won at regular time.
I don't remember actually.
Not since I've been following the U.S. do I remember a competitive U.S.-Mexico penalty shootout. But yeah, guys, we'll see you there tonight. What time are you starting the pregame live?
We'll go somewhere between an hour to 45 minutes before. Probably 45 minutes roughly. The lineup will be out. Give us like 10, 15 minutes to see it, and then we'll go live. It depends. If we see a lot of people in the chat, we'll go earlier.
Yeah.
Guys, just enjoy the rest of the day. We got a good amount, like a good 8 hours till kickoff.
Yeah. We got lots of time till kickoff. Enjoy, have a drink, enjoy your Sunday. We'll see you there as always. Live watch along with Tac, post game at 11 Yanks. Let's go USA.